Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Jaspreet Kaur and today we will study the module Tribal Economy from the paper Tribal Culture of India. Let us go through the learning objectives of this module. Define an exclusive account of tribal economy in India. Classify the course of tribal economy and to define the immense significance of tribal administration in tribal economic development. Discuss the process of examining source-integrated approach to study of the tribal communities and traditional practices, and to understand the concept and full-length account of socio-cultural aspect of tribal India. As we all know, India is one of the few nations of tribal concentration and is also said to have the largest tribal population. The tribal culture blooms in the isolated highlands and the forests of India. The tribals are an integral part of the Indian population. Their isolated ecology, economy, society, religious beliefs, and centuries long association with the Indian society. The study of tribals has been one of the oldest anthropological concerns. In fact, the genesis of anthropology can be traced to the understanding and describing the ways of life of these native people they found in India. These forest and hill dwelling savages were called tribes to differentiate them from the other civilized people. Tribals in India reflect the wider kaleidoscopic nature of Indian society, which on one hand is rooted in the ancient tradition, whereas on the other hand, forces of modernization are working in tandem. The tribal societies are interlinked and have evolved over the times. It is a reality that mirrors the very heart of India. Tribals are the centers of self sufficiency and the embodiment of collectivism. Though tribal society is still rooted in age old customs, feudalism, the process of modern participative, the principle of equality. The effectiveness of participative institution provides the basis of redistribution and egalitarianism, which is a feature of tribal society. The tribal culture of India is molding itself slowly but steadily to find its niche in the national mainstream of culture. Tribal population and their distribution in India. We all know that India is home to one of the largest number of tribes in the world, which have their own characteristics. They differ from the common Indian population both in character and composition. On and all, India bases Indian non-tribal population vary widely from place to place according to natural surroundings, economy, tradition and local history. On the other hand, the tribal population of India have more or less similar natural environments of hill and forest, poor economy, and specific tradition which are ideal for the tribal to come up. The most obvious way to grasp a tribal village in India is to consider its geographical settings, settlement pattern, and size on the one hand, and social settings including their ethnic composition on the other. In many cases, tribes have highly advanced hunting and fishing economies and more adjusted to their physical environment than other developed economies. Although there are 537 tribal communities in India, only 258 have been notified as tribes. STs as a category of India's population constitute around 8% of the total population as per the census 2001 and is varied in terms of socio-economic and political development. Tribes in India are not a homogeneous group as their culture and values are distinct from each other. The states like Maharashtra and Odisha share the largest number of tribes in India. There is a high variation in the spatial distribution of tribes in the nation. Almost 82% of the tribes live in western and central states, while only 11% of them are located in southern states. Regarding the growth rate of tribal population, it is obvious that the number of tribes has been growing over the years, although the rate of growth has been less than that of the general population. The major tribes in India are the Gonds, the Bhils, the Santals, the Oraos, and the Minas. These tribes live in different regions in the forest as well as in urban areas, and they have their own language and they speak their own languages. The states of Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Bihar, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, and northeastern region have a larger concentration of tribal population. The islands of Andaman and Nicobar are also inhabited by several tribes, which includes the Great Andamanis, Sentinelese, Onges, Jarvas, and Sompins. The socio-cultural aspects of tribals. Agriculture being the mainstays occupation of the tribals, they have a close relationship with the nature. The social ethos of tribals' life depend on close ties of kinship and friendship. They lay stress on customs, traditions, consensus, and informality. Caste and class structure do take special place in social fabric, and the bonding of familial ties plays a pivotal role in various aspects of their lives. It's the pyramid of psychological support structure. The ties between family members are strong and last longer than their non-tribal counterparts. The economies of families are mainly agriculture, and the whole family forms a single economic entity, cooperate with one another, and hold the property in common. Now, this interdependence among members helps develops a collective consciousness among the tribal's folk. Tribal economy. The sources of subsistence and livelihood are varied so far the Indian tribals are concerned. Starting from the pure and simple parasitic habit of the nomadic hunters and food gatherers who depend mostly on nature for the sources of subsistence to the settled agriculturist and group of industrial laborers. They earn their living by foraging as well as animal husbandry, by agriculture as well as government services from peon to high level administrative officers and ministers. Now, the economic base tightly depends on their specific environment. We have seen that in many cases, tribes have highly advanced hunting and fishing economies and more adjusted to their physical environment than the other developed economies. The evolution of economy from non-feudal to feudal and then to commercial conditions can take place during any stage of tribal evolution. Little value on surplus accumulation on the use of capital and on market trading, and largely or entirely independent of the national economic system, the sources of subsistence and livelihood are varied to far the Indian tribals are concerned, starting from the pure and simple parasitic habit of the nomadic hunters and food gatherers, who depend mostly on nature for the sources of subsistence to the settled agriculturist. Now let us look at the main features of tribal economy. They earn their living by foraging as well as animal husbandry, by agriculture as well as government services, which range from being a peon to a high level administrative officers and ministers. But even when they pursue economic activities, they are also a part of non tribal economic life. Agriculture, for example, their structural arrangements are remarkably different. They possess very simple technology, basically producing only enough to maintain them at subsistence level or even lower. Usually, they show what Majumdar called marginal economy, a group of people practicing different type of occupations at one time for livelihood, for example, collecting roots, fruits, and honey along with hunting. Usually, a tribe has neither internal social differentiation nor any specialization of functions. And whatever a tribe takes up, one specialized function, such as simple artisans, it behaves as a caste. Now, in general, economic life of a tribals is marked by the following features. Small economy, the production and transaction of goods and services takes place within small communities in a limited geographical area. Reciprocal exchange, which is the exchange of goods and services is carried out on reciprocal basis through barter and gifts. The motive of profit is generally absent. The manufacture of consumer goods necessarily for bare sustenance is usual, and an economic surplus is rare. Division of labor. Age and sex from the basic criterion for division of labor instead of professional training and specialization. Tribal markets. The exchange of goods or limited sale of surplus goods take place in periodical tribal markets, which also serve as socio-cultural networks in maintaining inter-village ties. Simple technology. The tools are either made by the user himself or by local artisans living in the neighborhood. Slower innovation. The rate of internal or induced innovation is very low, making the economic structure stable but unprogressive. Importance of family and kinship. The families in the tribal societies is a unit of both production as well as consumption. The kinship acts as a cooperative unit. In numerically smaller groups, whole community acts as a cooperative unit. Now let us discuss the communitarian basis of land holding. Each tribal group is often identified with a particular territory. Therefore, some scholars also suggest that a tribe is a territorial group. Bearing a few exceptions, of some nomadic tribes, the entire tribal group is found to have emotional attachment with their land and habitat. Because of their sentimental attachment with their land, to the tribals have always restricted any outside interference. Tribal resistance against interference in their habitat and land system is reflected in various tribal revolts in the past as well as failures of several tribal settlements schemes in different parts of the country. Tribes are very much dependent on forest for their day-to-day needs, including food, shelter, tools, medicines, and in some cases even clothes. As long as the tribes were in control of forest and used to have an open use of its produce, they had no difficulty in meeting these needs. In turn, they preserved the forest as it was their life support system. Now let us classify the tribes on the basis of their economies. A survey of tribes in India shows a wide range of economic activities which arrayed in order of increasing complexity and also portrays different stages in the evolution through which all mankind has passed. Professor L.P. Vidyarthi has divided the tribes of India into 8 cultural types on the basis of their economies. Let us discuss these one by one. The first one is the forest hunting type, which mainly depends on hunting wild animals, collecting wild fruits, roots, and fishing. These semi nomadic tribes are found all over India except the western parts. Some of the tribes belonging to this culture are Rajis of UP, Birhor, and Hilkharia of Bihar, Juang of Odisha, Hilmaria Gonds of MP, Chenchu and Yanadi of Andhra Pradesh, and Kurumba of Kerala. They usually live far away from rural urban way of life and possess a simple type of social organization. The next in the classification is a shifting hill cultivators type. These are the tribes that practice shifting or slash and burn cultivation on hill slopes or terraces. This practice is known as Jhum in northeast, Kurva in Bihar, Podu or Dahi in Odisha, and Konda Paddy in Andhra Pradesh. A hilly forested tract is selected for this purpose, may have to abandon after 3 successive cultivating seasons as the soil is likely to lose its fertility. The plants, shrubs, and undergrowths are cut down and left for during a month's time or so. Then they set fire to them and the ashes that are formed also serve as an auto manure to the soil. A section of Gond, Juang, Khasi, Garo, Naga, Kharia, Rayang, and Savara practice such type of primitive cultivation. The next in the category is plain agricultural type or permanent settled cultivators. Agriculture in its simpler form, plowing with the help of 2 animals, buffalo or oxes, is practiced by majority of tribals in India. Cooperation during sowing and harvesting is a characteristic feature, and domestication of animals, particularly the cows, buffaloes, pigs, and fowls, is generally seen in these kinds of tribes. The major tribes involved in plain agriculture are the Khasis, Jantia, Tharu, Munda, Odao, and the Santals. Next is the simple artisan types. These are the tribes which specialize in specific crafts and cottage industries, including basketry, tool making, carpentry, ironsmith, spinning and weaving, etc. Pastoral type. Although almost all agriculturist tribes domesticate animals, there are many tribes who are totally committed to cattle herding and live on milk and other dairy produce by selling them to their neighboring people. The classic example of this kind of tribes are the Todas of Nilgiri Hills of Tamil Nadu. The next is the folk artist type. Now, some tribals specialize in aerobatics, singing, dancing, snake charming, conjuring, and barding. They are the nomads wandering from village to village and city to city all over the country and earn their livelihood by arranging shows in open air, which are usually held in periodical markets in the rural areas. The popular examples of such kind of tribes are the Nat, Sapera, Madari, Bharupia, etc., and they belong to different areas of India. The manual laborer types. The labor type can be divided into two. The first is the agriculture labor and non-agricultural labor. The former type is to be found in every plain agriculturist village where these labor work in the fields of others, more or less on a regular basis, and receive their remuneration mostly in kind. The last one in this category is the white collar job and traders type. Now, a certain group of tribals who are working as school and college teachers or as clerks and officers in the government offices, also maybe they're working as nurses and doctors in hospitals, are engaged in contact work or self-employed as traders and merchants. Now, no specific tribe can be included in this particular category. Now, let us discuss the tribal's poverty. Tribal are the lifeline of India, but poverty has plagued the life of tribal folks. The unequal distribution of rural assets, such as land, along with the failure in crops due to erratic rainfall and floods, are the major causes of poverty in the countryside. Lack of skills, education, along with distressed migration, has been other causes of poverty. Poverty has its effects on overall human development. The poor are deprived of basic human necessity of nutrition, sanitation, and health. Such situation has negative repercussions in the overall economy of the nation. Also, a major demography cannot be harnessed to its optimum potential. Let us look at what are the causes of tribals' poverty. The anti-poverty and development programs has not percolated to the real beneficiary, which should be the tribals. The actual disguised labor is prevalent in agriculture. Lack of other employment avenues and lack of requisite skills and technical education. Irrigational facilities are not available in major areas, and the dependence on rainfall and groundwater extraction has caused a detrimental effect on agricultural practices. Low agricultural poverty due to dependence on traditional methods of farming techniques, poor quality of livestock, poor quality of education and lack of skill development, absence of any dynamic community leadership, and the presence of liquor and unwanted expansive social spending on various rituals and customs. Now, what are the strategies that can be implemented for development in tribal areas? Let's have a discussion on it. The formal credit institution should be properly strengthened. Poverty alleviation programs should be properly targeted so the benefits reach the needy ones. Focus should be given on integrated approach of human development by focusing on health, nutrition, sanitation, and skill development. creating social awareness to arrest increasing debt growth among the poor. Financial literacy must be propagated and banking facilities must be introduced with right earnest. Diversifying farming activities to animal husbandry, poultry, fishing, and dairy farming. And lastly, the steps should be taken to empower women by skill training, education, handicraft, financial training so that they can also be a part of this development process. Tribal economic policies. The union and the state governments have made efforts to raise the level of tribal living as par with the other citizens, aimed at inhabitants, have taken special care to protect and preserve the tribal culture. In tribal areas where the tribal economy revolves only around forest and forest based produce, the forestry programs have to be devised as to be in consonance with the socio-economic fabric, tribal culture, and ethos. Economic development of tribal population without cultural oppression or giving offense to their heritage or ethos will remain a challenging task for years to come. Tribals are the lifeline of India, but poverty has plagued the lives of tribals folk. The unequal distribution of assets such as land, along with the failure in crops due to erratic rainfall and floods, are the major causes of poverty in the country. Lack of skills and education, along with distress, migration, has been other causes of poverty. Poverty has its effects on overall tribal development. The tribes are deprived of basic human necessities of nutrition, health, and sanitation. The anti-poverty and development programs has not percolated the real beneficiary. The lack of disguised labor is prevalent in agriculture. The low agricultural poverty due to dependence on traditional methods of farming techniques. The irrigational facilities are not properly available in major areas. Poor quality of livestock, poor quality of education and lack of skill development, absence of dynamic community leadership, and presence of liquor and unwanted expansive social spending on ritual and customs, etc. Under the promotive and economic welfare policy of tribal development, the central and the state government have started many such programs, which include the Modified Area Development Approach, the Tribal Development Blocks, Integral Rural Development Program, Rural Landless Employment Guarantee Programs, Large-Scale Agriculture Multipurpose Societies, Community Development Programs, Small Farmers Development Agencies, Marginal Farmers and Agricultural Laborers Development Agencies, Drought-Prone Area Programs, Training of Rural Youth for Self-Employment. The number of tribal communities is very large, and most of them fall under scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and other backward classes. Most of the projects and efforts for upliftment of their health, education, and economic conditions have failed, both for their own unwillingness for change and absolute non cooperation, as well as lethargy, dishonesty, and corruption of the intermediaries. Although most of the tribal people of India are agriculturists, yet their economy basically remains at the subsistence level. As a result of the tribals at own exert little effort to afford proper education. Whatever education the tribals have received so far have been because of the efforts of the missionaries and the central and respective state governments' efforts. Among several tribes, socio-cultural factors have been mainly responsible for low literacy rate, particularly among the girls. There are other socio-cultural factors as well, such as early child marriage, which prevents particularly a tribal girl child to receive proper education and stake her claim in the job. Distinct psychological bent for enjoying life or course of tribal life and personality structure. The tribal as a man is simple, humble, and possesses a great amount of feeling for his co-villagers and kinsmen in particular, and community members in general. They grow in the intimacy of the social atmosphere of his community. His close association with nature inspires him to lead a carefree life. They feel pleasure in roaming about the hills, forests, and fields. Nature makes him intimate with the environment, and he often meets his friends and visits his own relatives on different festivals and in periodical new relation and association with the people. The post independence period has shown a dynamic shift in tribal societies. The flow of capital led to diversification of business and employment opportunities. The transformation of tribal society began during colonial period, but it gained momentum during post-independence period due to the intervention of governmental policies. These policies not only transformed the tribals' economy but also their social system. The transformation of these societies was regionally imbalanced and varied across India. The impact of globalization on social customs and traditions could be seen. The westernization of culture also led to erosion of traditional values and customs. The impact of global media has brought about a tectonic shift in the culture and thought process of Indian tribals' life. The globalization process has brought about aspiration changes in the minds of tribals people. So students, let us summarize what we have learnt in this module. The advent of industrial revolution and consequent urban exploitation, particularly in the tribal belt of Middle India, makes the situation more complicated. Their situation has been changing, and with the facilities available for them, their situation is improving to some extent. It remains a great job for the state and the central government to bring tribes into confidence, to educate them, clad them, take health care, and arrange for their living by developing skills. The tribal culture of India has undergone changes owing to several factors such as impact of education, introduction by missionaries or government, development of various communication, etc. Nevertheless, the greatest impact has been that of industrialization and urbanization. The obvious reason for this has been that the tribal area throughout the country are very rich as far as the mineral and the industrial resources are concerned. In general, however, the tribes in different parts of India are passing through an accelerated phase of transformation, and equilibrium in the traditional society has definitely been greatly disturbed. A phase of transformation marking the meeting of two worlds, the traditional and the modern, is in process, and it seems the different tribes or sections of a tribe will continue to respond the change differently, and thus the identity and variety of tribal culture, of course in a changed form, will be maintained. Thank you.